Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this live preview and launch of TrashSexy, our new Rowdy Raccoon RPG. My name is Maeve, and I'm on the team here at Fox and Boar Games, and I'm also the creative director of Revenant Productions. I would love to know where you're tuning in from tonight, so feel free to tell us in the chat where you're watching from. I'm based in Boulder, Colorado, but I'm here in Dallas, Texas right now, and John, who will be joining us, is in Pennsylvania. So we are thrilled to be bringing you this exciting new role-playing game. At Fox and Boar Games, we're all about delivering a high-quality and memorable storytelling experience to you and your players. So whether you're a game master, a seasoned player, or just a fan of thrilling tabletop role-playing adventures, you're in the right place. And we hope our games give you and your friends something exciting to connect over. So tonight we'll be introducing you to the world of TrashSexy and all the dumpster diving adventures that await you. And we'll also be introducing you to our artist, Jeff, and give you kind of a demo of the different character classes as well as the mechanics of the game. So be sure to stick around until the very end where we'll do a live Q&A and launch the game. So we're going to kick things off tonight by introducing my good friend and colleague, as well as the Fox and Boar Games founder and game writer, John Harford, to talk to us about TrashSexy. So just to give you a bit of an intro, John, for over 35 years, has been creating role-playing game content, from homebrewed worlds, stories, and systems for existing games to entirely customized content, some of which was incorporated into popular tabletop role-playing games, LARPing, and other gaming environments. He's also had a presence at several awesome, well-known conventions on the East Coast, and he previously developed some content for Blight Realms RPG from 2013 to 2018. And in addition to games, John has intensively studied ancient and medieval history, art, and music, which is actually how we met. He also teaches college-level game narrative and pen and paper system design. So John, welcome to the launch.
Thank you very much, Maeve. How are you? How is everybody doing tonight? Hello, I see some familiar faces. Some are too familiar out there. A few that I've known for quite a while. And I see Fuzz. And hi, Kat. Nice to meet you. So, thanks. Thanks for having me. Thanks for setting this all up, for being the production end of Fox and Boar Games. And we're ready to answer some questions and talk a little bit about trash.
Yeah, so let's just start by hearing a bit about what made you want to start Fox and Boar Games and really just write original RPG content like this.
Well, as you mentioned, I've been doing this a really long time now. At first it was running the games that were available at the time, which of course was first edition Dungeons and Dragons and, Call of Cthulhu and a few of these games that have now been around for 40 years. But even early on, I wanted to write my own stuff. I wanted to write my own scenarios, adventures. I'd even do some custom rules on occasion. I would do custom character types and things like that. For better or for worse. Now, of course, I'd probably look at all of that and cringe a little bit, but that's okay. I think that's where everybody starts out.
Absolutely.
And then, it was, as you know, and as several people here know, I started on Tales of the Hallowed Land, probably going on 5 years ago now this winter. And when it became apparent that it was going to be a reality last year, I realized I needed some kind of branding, some kind of overarching company to release things under. And, and I did some digging and I did some soul searching, and I could go into why it's called Fox and Boar Games at another date or at some other time, but that's the name I settled on, and I started developing it and incorporated in April. And then it made this leap from, hey, Andy, good to see you. I made this leap from, I'll just use this to publish Tales of the Hallowed Land, anything I do for Tales of the Hallowed Land. Till then I started talking to people, and I realized several people wanted a place to also publish their own, have content published. So that's how I kind of started moving into the territory of it being bigger than just, okay, it's just this thing to release a game.
Absolutely. And we know a lot of the Fox and Boar audience knows that Tales of the Hallowed Land is sort of the flagship game.
That's the big one.
Yeah. So what is TrashSexy exactly?
Well, let's come from. So that is a great question. I've asked myself more than once over the past couple of years, where did this come from? So it is unlike anything I would have considered developing and writing as an RPG. I mean, most people who know me know is running either like dark fantasy or sword and sorcery, or really kind of, in the weeds horror games, like
Mhm.
really kind of out there horror scenarios. So it was, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago now that I was kind of in the depths of some of the early play tests of Tales of the Hard Land with some of the folks who are on here tonight, Neil and Blake, who've been my regular consultants and playtesters in developing these games now for I don't know how long, definitely too long, maybe to tell us how long we've been alive. And I texted them and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with this game. I'm just
Mm.
making a game about raccoons that run around and eat trash and do naughty things. And you're only gonna have two traits. It's trashy and sexy. And then like I kind of just put the text down. It was like, yeah, haha. I put the text down, and it was like later that day. I forget who else I asked. I said, what do you think about this game? Like this very minimal rules, short play,
Mhm.
fun, like kind of cooperative storytelling game about raccoons. And I forget who it was, but they said, no, I think that's a great idea. I think that sounds great. That sounds really fun. Now there weren't any really out at that time, or they were just kind of coming out. Now, ironically, there have been quite a few raccoon games that have appeared in various forms over the last few years. And I haven't actually played any of them. I have read through two of them, and they're quite fun, but this is different. TrashSexy is different. So fast forward, and I kind of had it in my head, and I would take notes every couple months on it, maybe. And then I played Drinking Quest this summer.
Mhm.
And honestly, I didn't like a lot of what Drinking Quest did, and I'm not even going to bother getting into that because that's all game design, geek stuff. But what I liked about it is that everything was included on one card that you needed to resolve, like this
Mm.
encounter, and develop your character as you win. And it had a very simple system, and I kind of looked at all this and I said, okay, this is kind of what the raccoon game has to be. So that was in July, I think I played it. And then by the beginning of August, after I had gotten the bulk of Tales done with the release of the primer, the free primer, over on Drive Through RPG, once that was done and out, and I had a couple weeks to regroup, in 2 weeks, TrashSexy appeared, and there it
Mm.
was. And I know when I first pitched to my regular game group, I could tell the response on text was, "Wait, you did what? You want us to play what?"
What with
Come on,
raccoons?
guys, play. Let's go try this. This will be fun. And it was like, and then everybody got into it, and they really had fun with it. So there's Tim. Hey, Tim, good to see you. And it ended up being this really, really kind of spontaneous, immediate response and reaction, and that's I think exactly what it had to be. It could not be something that I sat and, unlike Tales of the Hard Land, where I'll research one culture for 3 months before I
Right.
start working on it. This is not about that. This is
Yeah.
a very short, quick play game.
Very
And
cool.
that's where it came from, and now it's here. And I ran
Yeah.
multiple play tests online, and then I took it to a con, and I think it's ready to go with some tweaking, but it's ready to go.
Yeah, and I know you were just recently at Mepicon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did that go? What was
It
the
went
response
really
like?
well. It was the first game that filled up out of all my games.
Wow.
And same thing is happening now at Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo.
Mhm.
That will be held in January. It is, and then I'll be running it again in TotalCon. And I will be available at PAX Unplugged through Games on Demand. There will be games of it available there. So that's kind of a first come, first serve. I'll be on site if the game runs and fills, which it probably will, because people seem
Mhm.
to love playing raccoons. You get to play it there too.
Absolutely. So what has been the most surprising thing so far in this process that you've learned when creating this game?
So the most surprising thing has been that you could take something that is such a minimal
Mm.
system, such a simple system, and then you can nuance it. Because as we've played it more and more, even though it's very mechanically extremely simple, it only uses one
Mhm.
die roll throughout the entire game of one of two dice, a d4 or a d6, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I think. It it surprised me how when players get a hold of it, they start really nuancing this, and it becomes something a little bit more than what I thought it would be. And the other thing that surprised me is how much people love it, how much people love playing role playing raccoons. And that was just this kind of idea I had. I threw it out there, And to see 5 people I've never met before at a convention get
Mm.
deep into like how the raccoon is interacting, how the raccoon is trying to lock the school principal in a closet, and and how they're going to get that corn dog. It's been this
I
really
love it.
great experience. Yeah, and I mean, I had 5 people and one on wait list show up at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday at a convention to play this. I was like, wow, okay, all right, and all demographics and age groups too, which was really interesting to me. Really
All
interesting.
right. Well, yeah. So speaking of the raccoons, I mean, we know in the game there's this concept of like skids, right?
Yeah, sure.
And that's sort of where your character can find their class. So can you tell us more about how the different skids affect the player's characters in the game?
So the skids, very simply, are your character class. Your character, your tribe of raccoon is how I've been kind of framing it. I've been calling it clans, and I'm waiting to get in trouble for that, because there is a joke that they're basically derivative of the original White Wolf vampire clans. And they kind of are, but but it is a different thing. But the choice of skid in this game, it's not even like clan and vampire or class in D&D that is defining your entire character. It simply dictates some bonuses, or it defines your personality and where you're from, first of all. So you have the back alleys, who are the urban raccoons. You have the whiskey jacks, or the moonshining outliers. You have the Richies, who are the suburban raccoons who sit on decks.
Let's take folks through it here.
You have the cruds, who are the cannibalistic raccoon underground dwellers. They're not really cannibalistic, at least the player characters don't have to be. And then last but definitely not least, you have the bumpkins, who are your country folk raccoons. So it defines your personality for a raccoon. This is not a high stakes role playing experience. I don't care if you want your Richie to be grimy and weird. There's Justin. How's it going? I don't care if you want your whiskey jack to be, super, super fancy and not dress in flannels and, carry a shotgun, like whatever. But it does actually affect the game a little bit, in that on certain maps, now maps are your area locations. They're not physical maps, but that's just what I call them. Your environments, your game environments, like back alleys in an urban environment get bonuses. In a suburban environment, they get some penalties. Bumpkins in a rustic environment, they get bonuses. I think it's in their underground environment, they then get a couple of penalties. And I'm about to say they're very minor penalties, but when your die spread is basically 1 to 6, a -1 or a +1 actually becomes this really big penalty. Plus, they get some bonuses on their initial moves. Moves are your skills. They're what you use to power the game. They'll get each different skid gets some bonuses on certain moves. And they also have access to certain shinies to start. And shinies are effectively your magic items, your special items. They're human things raccoons have figured out how to use to do weird things with. So that's kind of how your choice in skid affects the game. Plus, it provides our artists for lots of great ideas for some cool art, which is one thing I keep hearing about this game.
Absolutely. I'm excited to introduce Jeff to everybody through a video in a bit. But yeah, there's a skid for every player. What can I say?
There is a skid definitely for every player and player type.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, so we'll be getting, more into the game mechanics later, obviously, but how would players go about kind of finding their skid? What recommendations would you make for that?
So this is such a broad thing. And again, I'm not necessarily concerned with, I don't know if a player who sits down at this is going to do more than pick it based on the art, which that's part of it, right? We all pick things or gravitate towards things that we think look cool. But, let's say you want to play a character who's kind of social and in charge, you might want to go with a Richie. If you want a character that's a little more stealthy but tough, maybe you go with the back alley. Or you might want to go with a whiskey jack if you want to be like a survival type character. So if you want to play into those tropes that you typically find in role-playing games, they're all there. And this is the source of nearly all the character skids is some other trope in a role-playing game that I've extended into the raccoon environment. And there will probably be more skids, by the way. That's something I will just tease out now, and I'll talk maybe a little bit more about later. I have a few other ideas for some ideas, so we'll we'll see what happens. We'll see how the game goes. If people really like it, there will be more skids.
Yeah, everybody watching out there, if you've already found a skid that you have in mind, tell us in the comments. We'd love to see it. Absolutely. I think
if you want to know more about a skid, we'll do Q&A at the end. Ask me any questions you have.
Yeah, we've got some pretty raunchy character types going.
Yeah, this is toned down. My original script of the game was definitely more into the PG-13 R level of language use and description. And then I decided to pull it back. And I had a conversation with a couple people about this. And I said, all right, daughter wants to play Richie. Richie's are amazingly popular. I thought nobody would want to play a Richie. I think they're like the Ventrue and Vampire. Like, who really wants to play that? But the Richies have been like amazingly.
They had me at the coffee, honestly.
The coffee, I think, sells it.
Yeah,
Jeff talks about that in the interview. He talks about that. But so yeah. I think that people are going to gravitate towards just the art, the affectation. All this kind of stuff. So did you have another question? Sorry, I got a little derailed there when we talked.
No, you're good. I mean, there's lots of potential there. So absolutely a skid for everyone. Yeah. So as we know, at the end of this preview tonight, the game's going to be officially launching on Kickstarter. What are some of the benefits of joining the campaign?
Wow. All right. So I guess if it's okay, I'll share my screen now.
Go for it.
Let's do that. And we're going to go towards. It says multiple share screen steps, unlike Zoom. So I'm kind of like navigating it like. So is that coming through strong?
It sure is.
All right, great. So at the most basic level, you see, you can chip in $1 and you get some input on the game. You get to help make a custom Kickstarter location card that will only ever be available through Kickstarter. We have the digital download of the core book, which will be very affordable. I think a $10 PDF for Kickstarter backers. We then have a complete digital pack, which will include 2 books, which I'll get to the other book in a moment. But then we have the soft cover book, which we are currently working on the layout, or at least I'm currently working on the layout, discussing with Jeff in terms of long-term planning for art. I know he mentioned he wanted to do color cover at least. So we'll take a look at that and maybe some more color art for the inserts. Again, we'll see how everything goes. So you'll be able to pick that up. Then you'll have the full print pack, which is both the PDF now to TrashSexy, is the expansion, the first expansion, which is already underway. I already have content for that. I had so many ideas. I just shelved some of it and I started putting it in the expansion. This will be another book full of content, including some additional locations, some additional skids, maybe an additional entire map. The one thing which I'll showcase in a minute under the story is a special card set that early backers will get. But then you can, of course, get the stuffed pack, which is both print and digital. And then you can get the bulging pack, which is all the add-ons, and that includes the 2 core books, digital and print. The Trash Master Experience package, that is, if you would like to not only get all of the books and all of the add-ons, but then also have a 2-hour play session with me online, unless you happen to live close by, for you and 3 of your friends. You can experience that for this package, this starter level. And there is, I believe I put a small limit on that, not an extremely large number of large. Okay, no, so I didn't put a limit on that. So I guess I'll book as many as people want to book. Then the 2 top tiers, which are our premium tiers, is a signed limited edition skid print from Jeff and Corey, our artists. And you also get all the books and you get the dice and the add-ons. I'll go over the extra rewards in a moment. And you could choose one of the 6 skid illustrations. They will print it out nicely, sign it for you, and send it to you through the physical mail. And then the final, and this interface is a little weird in the preview. This is the custom raccoon and all rewards. So for the top tier is you get to commission Jeff and Corey to make you a piece of TrashSexy style custom art.
All
This can
right.
be a picture of, this could be just a picture that you conceive. You want a raccoon stealing a pizza? We can get you a raccoon stealing a pizza. You want to be a raccoon? You can get us a picture, and your face will end up on one of these raccoons. You want a friend, a pet, or an enemy as a character in the game? You absolutely can become a character in this game through this high-end tier custom level. So that's kind of like for someone who really wants to go in and make this a lifestyle. That's gonna be the one for you. Let me see if I could just get to the add-ons. I'm not sure if I can get to the add-on through the preview pane. But we do also have, we'll only click on them. So the other things we do have, and let me go to this story. Scroll down through here. We do have 6 cards, which are going to be free to early backers. These versions of these location cards are only going to be available for Kickstarter backers. And they will be available as an add-on later, but you also will get this. If you back within the first week, you get these for free. If you back over a certain level, I think it's the $25 level, you get prints. Otherwise, you get print and play PDFs. Here are some fun people enjoying TrashSexy. This trash mat, which you see throughout the Kickstarter, is already made. I have them in hand. As you see, I have been playing on one. This is made by Inked Gaming. And again, this is the special backer edition. You'll only get this through Kickstarter. We have custom dice coming from Q Workshop in Poland, and they look great, but they have not sent me, they've sent me mock-ups. They have not sent me actual renderings yet. But as soon as I have pictures of those, I will send them to you. And Creator Pult has been making some really cool miniature trash cans for us. This is going to be the first stretch goal. So how high we stretch depends how many people get this for free. There will be more stretch goals to be announced. So that's what we have as far as a raccoon that thinks it's a cat. Well, we've already had, that is actually a concept that has been pitched to me more than once. Raccoon that thinks it's a cat. Squirrels. I know certain people might want squirrels in the game. So who knows? Who knows what will happen in the future? But that's the basics of what you can expect from the Kickstarter. And if it continues, if it really picks up in rolls, there will be more stretch goals that we have in mind that we'll release.
All right. Well, thank you, John. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll kind of get our artist, Jeff, has a video to share, and then I think we will walk everyone through the mechanics of the game. We'll be right back.
Perfect. Super. Thank you. You're a raccoon, but not just any raccoon. A raccoon smarter than the average human, and out to forage for trash, treats, and find prized shinies. Get out your D4 and your D6 and prepare to begin your first escapade. TrashSexy is an easy-to-learn, fast-playing story game that uses a unique generative card deck to help the Trash Master quickly lay out scenarios. Each escapade has several episodes, and each episode has locations inhabited by creatures that you must befriend, fight, or outwit. These include coyote-haunted pastures, country taverns filled with wannabe cowboys, urban block parties with steaming sausages on the griddle and toughs and guinea teas, to undercity gardens inhabited by strange goblins that tend psychedelic fungus crops. Your character belongs to one of 5 skids, which determines where your raccoon comes from and what they are good at. These are urban, rustic, wild, suburban, and even underground dwelling raccoons. Characters can be created in less than 5 minutes. The Trash Master determines the goal of your escapade. Along the way, you pick up trash from each location you visit to help complete your quest. Everyone at the table controls a raccoon character, and it's easy to rotate the trash can lid to a new Trash Master so anyone at the table can play or referee an episode. You can play the game with little prep and throw down some location cards for a few hours, or run it as a more traditional RPG with an ongoing story. Do you have what it takes? Are you ready to be TrashSexy?
Hello there, my name is Jeff Arsenault. I'm one of the artists that works regularly with Fox and Boar Games to create art and illustration. I've been asked to make a video answering some questions about the art made for one of their newest games, TrashSexy. For TrashSexy, I worked with my friend and talented artist, Corey McNaught. We decided to take a traditional comic book team approach to the art. Corey worked on the penciling of the characters, and I was the inker for this project. It's definitely a toss-up between the preppy raccoons and the backwoods raccoons. On the preppy side, I really like how you get the feel that the male raccoon thinks he's better than you, and the female just wants to sip on her latte and go shopping in a dumpster behind a fancy mall. On the backwoods side, you have the don't mess with me attitude from the male and the sassiness of the female. For sure, a full color cover in the near future would be fun. I really think an epic cover that's kind of over the top, full color, Frank Frazetta style illustration, but with raccoons would be awesome. It differs in a few ways. One is that I'm teaming up with another artist, Corey. Another is that it's a style that I'm kind of new to. I've been working with ink for some time, but not in this old school comic style. Then you have, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, is the gritty sword and sorcery style of art of Tales of the Harrowland. Thanks for the questions. It's been a blast working on this project so far, and I'm looking forward to creating more art for the awesome Fox and Boar Games. Cheers. Thank you.
All right, so next we're going to move into our demo of the game mechanics for TrashSexy. If you have any questions about anything you're seeing, we would love to hear them, so drop them in the chat and we'll answer them after the demo during the Q&A.
Welcome to the world of TrashSexy, the Rowdy Raccoon Mayhem RPG by Fox and Boar Games. I'm John, I am the designer of the game, and I just want to take you through a quick play example of it. We're not going to get too much into the characters today. I'll explain anything I need to as we go through the play example. This character's already been made up. He is a whiskey jack. There are different skids for different characters. Think of them as your raccoon tribe or your raccoon clan, if you want to go to those terms. What your character's good at, basically where they come from. Whiskey jacks are hunting, moonshining outliers. He gets some bonuses to stuff. It's already all factored in. I've already allotted the points and made the choices. We're just going to name him. Let's name him Skeeter. How about we call him Skeeter in a predictable fashion? Now, again, this is not a high-stakes role-playing experience. I'm not particularly worried if you want to make your whiskey jack a more erudite character and you want to make them very intellectual. That's great by me. We like to break stereotypes here at Fox and Boar Games. But this is really just a demo of how the game is played. So you first start by setting up the board, and there's a couple steps. Now, this game does require a trash master, a game master. The game master does not have to necessarily do any prep because they rely on a generative card system. This can be played like a traditional RPG where a trash master sits down and makes up an adventure. We call it an escapade here. Each escapade is broken down into episodes. And how you determine how many locations, that would be what the cards are in each escapade, and how many are in each particular episode, we determine more or less randomly. It's fully possible to just decide how many you're going to have, but it's normally based on players. So you have your escapade, you're setting it up. Here's the trash mat. By the way, this trash mat will be a Kickstarter reward. This is a Kickstarter backer trash mat. There'll be a slightly different version available later, but this is going to be available only through the Kickstarting. And the way you determine the number of episodes in your escapade is by the number of players. The guideline is generally 2 players or 2 episodes. 3 to 4 players are 3 episodes. 5 to 6 players are 4 episodes. I've play tested this quite a few times with an average runtime of 2 hours. We generally don't get through more than 2 to 3 episodes. So those numbers will be adjusted. You're going to hear me say that a bit during the video as we're still kind of in the playtest phase of all this. The game itself is written, it's working, just these kind of details that we're figuring out. So let's just say we had 3 players and we're going to have 3 episodes. You have to get through all the locations in an episode to go on to the next one. Now, how many locations are there in each episode? We're going to roll that randomly at the start of the episode. First thing we're going to do is determine our goal. We have a set of goals that the raccoons have to get through in addition to completing the locations. If you succeed in the goal, you get extra trash and you get extra smooth. And those are a trash bonus and extra smooth. And those are ways that you advance your character. So it's kind of like a bonus reward. There are a couple goals that cause a hard stop if you do not succeed them. The goals are generally escape. That's to get to a certain point and close the location. There is scavenge, and that's to get a certain number of trash above and beyond what's required for your goal. And then there is survive, which is you have to get through so many locations without a raccoon losing their kilter, which is going unconscious. Pilfer, you're looking for a specific item. That can be made up by the trash master or by the group. We had a corn dog at the convention playtest. They were after a corn dog. And then there is discover, and that's you have to find one specific location on this map, and that's determined randomly. And then explore, that's to get through a certain number of locations and complete them. So the goal is just an additional incentive, an additional kind of framework to play the game in. If I roll the die, I roll the 5, and that would be discover. So that would be I'd have to find a specific location. Again, this is not going to be an exhaustive play example. This is just a quick how you play the game. Then you choose how many locations there are in that particular episode. So I generally roll D3 plus 1. So roll a 6-sided die divided by 2, still the maximum numbers. There would be 4 locations at the first episode. Which of the maps do we use? As you see up here, we have 5 different map possibilities. These are different environments. Certain skids of raccoons are stronger in certain environments. Some of them are weaker in other environments. So I'm going to roll randomly again here, and I have a D6, and it's determined by a D6. So I rolled a 6, choose 2 maps. So this location will actually be using 2 of these different maps. Now, when I say map, I just mean an environment, a kind of environment to explore. So we're going to choose 2. We can either have the players as a group choose 2, or can determine them randomly, or the trash master can decide. And I will say, how about this? We'll make it a little weird. We'll go with rustic, and we'll go with suburbs. So what that means is, as the characters progress through this episode, we're pulling cards from these 2 maps to determine what kinds of locations they are. Now, I generally say split it at the halfway point. Since we have 4 locations here, we're going to do 2. Let's say we're going to start 2 in the rustic. We're going to do 2 in rustic, then we're going to go do 2 in suburbs. So how does this work? Now, these cards are all paper prototype cards. Obviously, they will be full high-quality print at the time of the Kickstarter. Completion, fulfillment, we are already underway. The final designs are underway. And the first thing we come through is a tourist trap. Now, how does the Trash Master kind of narrate this? Well, it can be like Munchkin, if you're familiar with Munchkin, where you just say, oh, okay, we have to fight one of these things or however many of these things, and then get past this trap, and then we move to the next location. Or it can be much more narrative. So I have some narrative description here. Just off a road, the world's biggest ear of corn, or a 3-eyed lizard. Of course, they have a snack bar and a gift shop. So your raccoons start out outside. Now, this is for the Trash Master to dictate. Your raccoons start outside or inside. I guess they could have them start out in the gift shop. This is very freeform. This aspect of it is where it's more of like a role-playing game versus a board game like Munchkin. But you generally start by rolling 1 encounter and you start by rolling 2 encounters. You start by rolling encounters. One is an interaction, which is you meet an NPC. The other is an incident. And that's a problem or an obstacle. Think of that like a trick or a trap. And I have some flavor text down here and also some things to flesh out that location. So when you draw location cards, you do two things. First, you start off with trash, how much trash is available, or should I say how much loot's available there? And I roll a 3. So 3 plus 7 plus 4 is 7. Now, you have to get through the minimum before you can close the location. So you have to get at least 4. That's uniform on all the cards. I should say that process is uniform. The numbers vary. We are also refining these numbers. As of now, it's all D4 plus something, but after several play tests, having somebody stay in one location for basically 7 attempts to get loot seemed really long. And I could tell players kind of wanted to finish up a location, finish up the narrative at that location, and move on. So I'm still modifying these. It might be a D4 and it might be lower numbers so that you can move through the game a little bit more quickly. So you start there. So the next thing you do is you determine secretly, the Trash Master secretly determines which of these interactions are going to encounter. So if I roll a D6, dogs. So somebody's got dogs at this location. Dogs are dangerous because they can sniff out raccoons even if they're hiding successfully. And they'll generally attack raccoons. And then I choose one incident. And now cause a ruckus is always there. What cause a ruckus is if the public discovers a raccoon they call some sort of authority who is going to try to get rid of the raccoon. In this case, I found a picnic. So there's a picnic. So if I were to go and take a look at the description of picnic in the book, the game book, and eventually there are going to be some cards printed for these locations as well, then you would say, okay, a picnic, I know that I have an opportunity to steal extra food, but I also have the greater chance of causing the ruckus if I'm caught. So how does this all unfold? There are two ways to do it. If you have an experienced game master and an occasional cat that wanders through, if you have an experienced game master, then they might say they're going to just decide how this is laid out. Okay, so there's a person walking around with dogs, and the dogs are playing outside this tourist trap. What is this tourist trap? I usually like to let the players kind of make it up as they go and with some input. So we're going to say it's car henge. It's a fake stone henge made out of old rusted out cars. That's what this tourist trap is. The tourist trap can be anything. And by the way, again, this is very storytelling and freeform based. You could change this to anything and just use this card as a template. But I want to provide enough information so you can sit down and play the game immediately. And the game ends, that session ends, that escapade ends when the goal is reached and when they have a minimum amount as dictated by the goal of trash that needs to be found that has to be possessed in the trash pack. Now, as you can expect, there are all kinds of obstacles. Certain encounters will steal trash from the trash pack. Certain characters you meet will be hostile. Certain ones will be friendly. The whole point of this game is telling a fun story. Yes, we have a completion, we have a goal. We do have the capability to carry the characters over and make it like an actual RPG where the characters advance and progress. Characters don't necessarily really die. I think I suggest that they probably shouldn't go on for more than 4 or so escapades, at least as the game is written now. There definitely will be some expanded material coming out, including more adventure style ways to play the game in which the characters are a little bit more fleshed out and have a little more detail. But that's just a very basic overview of how the core of the game is played. It is not very sophisticated in terms of, layers of rules. There will be some additional rules that you'll encounter when you start playing it on your own, or if you come to a convention and play it with me, or if you find me online and play it with me. But for the most part, that's going to be the core of how you play TrashSexy. Very immediate, very quick, very little prep required. You can even rotate and have different people play Trash Master at different episodes if they feel comfortable doing that. Thank you very much.
All right. Game mechanics.
There we go. Yeah, a very brief and a little scattered primer on the game mechanics there.
Absolutely. So what is next for TrashSexy?
Well,
at this point,
that's a great question. As I said, I've actually already started writing enough material that I can have an expansion. The core book, I think I'm looking at, think I finished at about 40 pages without extensive editing. It may become shorter, and that includes the various charts that talk about the various lists that talk about the different types of interactions and incidences you can find. That includes lists of trash. If you don't want to make up all your own trash that people find, you can just roll randomly. So beyond that, there's going to be more of that into TrashSexy, which is the expansion. Plus, as I said, I do have a new map conceived of and some additional locations for existing maps. And I'm not sure if the skid is going to appear there or is going to appear later. The biggest thing that I've taken away when I've talked to people who have done just one of the quick play tests, who don't know me for anything else, was said, well, what we almost would like to see would be an actual adventure, like an actual closed environment run like a traditional adventure where we play these characters in this world. So I think that's what I'm going to really work on for like kind of the next step of it. I have several different ideas of that. You take your raccoon characters and you actually have a complete location that you hand the trash master and they run it like a more traditional RPG. That's where I think we're going to go next with it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds.
Me too.
So I think at this point, we're ready to go ahead and launch the Kickstarter.
All right.
You are.
We can do that. I am definitely ready to do that.
Folks. So, been waiting for this.
It's kind of surreal that I'm launching this before I launch Tales of the Harrowed Land, but that's just the way it worked. That's just the way this was ready to go. So I thought there'd be no reason to not do it.
Absolutely. And so for those watching who have played Tales of the Harrowed Land, where is that at in the process as well?
So Tales of the Harrowed Land, I mean, the core rules are pretty much ready to go. Now it's just this massive job of formatting the book, getting all the art together. And I think what we're looking at is we are looking at launching that. I think we discussed probably towards the summer of this year is where I'd really like to get that up and going. We want to do the Journeys deck next, definitely, and then I'd like to do the Tales of the Harrowed Land as the final launch.
All right. Well, you can follow us on social media at Fox and Boar Games if you want to keep up with all these game developments.
Absolutely. And here we go. I'm ready to launch.
Let's do it.
You launch date and time, blah, 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 30 minutes. I've read these rules. I have done Kickstarters before, not a game yet. All or nothing and launch project.
Woo, done.
And providing nothing weird happens with Kickstarter, there it is. It is now live for anyone who wishes to go and back this project. Come on over and back this project.
Absolutely. I'm going to be dropping a link to that in the chat if you want to check it out. We really want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. If you have any questions at all, feel free to DM us, send us a message, tag us in your stories, whatever you want to know about TrashSexy. We have lots of great things coming up in the works. Join our mailing list, all the things. Follow us on social, stay in touch. And and absolutely go back this amazing game. And the link is now in the chat, it looks like, so you can go ahead and check that out.
You will be seeing it in the mailing list and social media. And if you haven't, go over to foxandboargames.com. If you want to sign up for our mailing list, we are very infrequent mailers. We don't mail bomb you. Maybe you get something once every we're about once a month, maybe a little bit more now that we have some things going, but
absolutely. I think having been on both sides of the coin, we're
dedicated to making this a non-stressful email list experience for you. So
absolutely, yep. So yes, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for everybody for tuning in.